Along the Dnieper River's edge, deep within a subterranean command post, Ukrainian special operators meticulously tracked hostile movement on a digital battlespace map. The target: a colossal Russian convoy, over 300 vehicles laden with ammunition and fuel, converging on the critical Staryichi Bridge. This bridge represented the sole artery into the southern village of Zatun, a choke point for resupplying over 10,000 Russian forces on the southern front. A successful crossing meant full combat replenishment. Its neutralization would dramatically shift the strategic calculus. The operation was 3 days in the making. Beneath the bridge's superstructure, 12 Kajak Rebooth autonomous drones lay dormant, secreted in place and disguised as inert maintenance equipment. Undetected, they remained electronically silent within the cold steel shadows, impervious to the sweeping Russian radar patrols overhead. Awaiting an encrypted signal from a command element miles distant, the strike package lay in wait. At 0200 hours, the convoy began its transit, its lead Pantsir Sonne air defense system maintaining a constant active scan. The Nebo-M radar provided overwatch for the entire sector, registering no anomalies. As the convoy reached the bridge's midpoint, a logistical failure, a blown tire, created a bottleneck. This was the precise scenario predicted by Ukrainian AI. In the command post, an operator initiated the strike sequence, transmitting an encrypted activation signal to the assets beneath the bridge. 12 indicator lights flashed green. The swarm activated, executing a gravity drop before their motors ignited mere feet above the river, seamlessly assuming their attack formation. The formation bifurcated into 3 distinct attack cells. The first tasked with prosecuting ammunition carriers, the second with engaging fuel tankers. A third cell was assigned to neutralize the command vehicle. Russian doctrine anticipated an aerial attack vulnerable to electronic warfare countermeasures. However, these platforms operated with a sophisticated level of autonomy, requiring only a single encrypted activation packet. Upon receipt, their onboard AI initiated terminal guidance logic. Operating without GPS or remote piloting, they utilized the bridge's architecture for navigation. They were now, in effect, self-guided munitions. The 12 Kajak drones dropped momentarily, their engines spooling up to stabilize their altitude just 3 feet above the water's surface. The sound of their rotors was completely masked by the thunder of the 80,000-ton convoy overhead. On the bridge, the lead element's communications officer made his scheduled report. Checkpoint Charlie secure. Convoy is 50% across the objective. All systems nominal, no hostile indicators. Beneath them, the 12 drones maintained their 3 pre-programmed attack cells, using the massive concrete pillars to mask their approach from shoreline radar. Onboard AI utilized LiDAR to map the structure in real time, executing hundreds of micro-adjustments per second to navigate the complex geometry of steel beams and supports. The targeting solution was locked. Cell 1, 6 drones, assigned to the central ammunition trucks. Cell 2, 4 drones, to the fuel carriers. Cell 3, 2 drones to the command and control vehicle. The operation entered its critical phase. The technology performed to specification. The plan unfolded precisely as designed. The outcome now rested on the unpredictable human element. A single soldier, a momentary glance over the bridge's railing, could compromise the entire operation. Now 900 yards from their designated impact points, the assets remained undetected by the powerful Nebo-M radar system, providing wide-area surveillance. But inside the Pantsir Sonne command vehicle, a lieutenant detected a subtle anomaly on his console. It was not a hard radar return, but a low-level electronic signature interference typically dismissed as background noise. Acting on instinct, the officer overrode passive sensors, switching his targeting radar to an active pulse mode and flooding the area below the bridge with a focused beam of energy. His display immediately exploded with contacts. He had a positive lock. Without waiting for confirmation, he initiated the launch sequence. A 57E6 missile, a sophisticated munition valued at $150,000, roared from its launch rail, streaking towards a target 30 feet below the bridge deck. The missile impacted a pre-activated Ukrainian decoy, a device worth perhaps $50, disintegrating the lure in a violent detonation. The explosion triggered immediate alerts across the convoy's communication network. Contact, impact, detonation under the bridge. Warning lights flashed as drivers slammed on their brakes. The disciplined convoy devolved into a chaotic bottleneck, squarely within the designated kill zone. Soldiers jolted from sleep, gripped by sudden fear. The element of surprise was lost. The phantom contacts were now confirmed threats. Ukraine had initiated the engagement, but in doing so had provoked a disoriented and dangerous adversary. The tactical question became critical: how to engage a target now fully aware of the threat displayed on its Pantsir radar. For a fleeting moment, Lieutenant Dmitry Volkov achieved a target lock, only to lose it seconds later. His display erupted into a chaotic cascade of ghost signals, reflecting erratically off the bridge's steel superstructure. His attempt to reacquire a lock was met with phantoms, not the panicked inputs of a human pilot, but the cold, digital precision of an AI executing countermeasures. The remaining 11 drones simultaneously altered their flight paths, initiating a classic beam maneuver, a 90-degree turn relative to the Pantsir's radar emitter. To understand the tactical brilliance of this move, one must consider that the radar primarily measures relative velocity, speed toward or away from its position. By flying perpendicular to the radar's line of sight, their relative speed plummeted to near zero. To the Pantsir's fire control computer, the drones had effectively vanished from existence, now masked by the clutter of the bridge structure itself. But this was not merely evasion. The Ukrainian objective was to neutralize the enemy's sensor capabilities. The drone nearest the Pantsir activated its onboard jammer, unleashing a focused burst of X-band energy. The Russian lieutenant's display instantly shifted from chaotic returns to a blinding wall of white static, a sensory overload akin to a flashbang. At this critical juncture, the Ukrainian AI transformed a potential failure into a tactical masterstroke. The system calculated a 97% probability that a precision strike would immobilize the convoy, a calculation based on intelligence regarding substandard vehicle tires. With the Russian forces sensor-deprived, disoriented, and stalled, the drones withheld their attack. Instead, they maneuvered back beneath the bridge's girders, re-establishing concealed positions, awaiting the optimal moment to re-engage. They had weathered the initial countermeasure, demonstrating a superior tactical logic to their adversary. However, the engagement had revealed their capabilities. The Russians now understood they were confronting a sophisticated technological threat, not rudimentary hardware. A cornered and tactically outmaneuvered Russian commander prepared a desperate counter. Dozens of miles distant, at an altitude of 30,000 feet, a Russian of 50 AWACS, the proverbial eye in the sky, received the alert. If the Pantsir was a sentry with a flashlight, the A-50 was the command center activating the floodlights. Its powerful look-down radar was immune to ground clutter and beam-riding evasions. It painted a complete picture, detecting the minimal heat signatures and composite airframes of the drones, which stood out starkly against the concrete of the bridge. Subsequently, targeting data from the A-50 populated the Pantsir displays. This data stream was networked to an S-400 battery 50 miles away, providing verified tracks for engagement. Missile launch alerts blared across Ukrainian operator consoles. A long-range surface-to-air missile designed to intercept supersonic fighters was now vectoring on $600 drones. The drones' stealth was compromised. Their jamming was ineffective against the A-50's frequency band. With a hypersonic missile seconds from impact, the drone's AI confronted a contingency outside its core programming. Rather than attempting to outmaneuver the missile, it executed Omega-7, a preloaded defensive protocol. A ventral hatch snapped open. A thin fiber optic tether, dozens of meters in length, deployed in an instant, trailing a canister-sized ALE-50 decoy. The ALE-50 was an electronic deception device of exquisite design. It did not merely radiate heat. It sampled the incoming S-400's radar energy and transmitted back an amplified signal, creating a far more substantial and more enticing radar cross-section than the actual drone. To the S-400's seeker head, it presented as a priority target. The missile violently altered course, detonating harmlessly over the river as it intercepted the decoy, expending itself on the low-cost lure. On board the A-50, operators stared in disbelief. A $1 million weapon system had been defeated by a piece of disposable countermeasures. But the Ukrainian tactic was not merely defensive. It was the prelude to a counterattack. The massive, high-altitude detonation of the S-400 missile drew the attention of every Russian air defense asset within a 50-mile radius. Their sensors all oriented skyward. With enemy attention fixed on the upper airspace, a single data packet was transmitted from Ukrainian command. The 11 drones broke cover, engaged maximum throttle, and surged from beneath the bridge in a coordinated, high-speed assault. The phase of clandestine approach was over. This was now a direct, overwhelming strike. The drones' targeting priority shifted from the vehicles to the bridge's structural supports directly beneath them. Their inertial navigation systems, immune to jamming, had locked the coordinates with a near-zero margin for error. The lead drone struck the main support pylon, penetrating reinforced concrete and steel. The subsequent 10 systematically hammered pre-designated weak points along the bridge's structural spine. The entire coordinated impact sequence was executed with surgical precision in under 1.3 seconds. But the kinetic strikes were merely the prelude. The drone fuses were set to a 1.1-second delay. They were not the primary ordnance, but the triggers. The objective was not merely to breach the structure, but to weaponize the space below. The cavity between the river and the deck was transformed into a compression chamber, amplifying the detonations from open-air blasts to catastrophic contained explosions. Shockwaves reverberated between the water and concrete, escalating pressure to thousands of pounds per square inch and shredding internal steel supports like kindling. The colossal concrete pillars, engineered for vertical loads, were now subjected to immense lateral forces, causing them to fracture and disintegrate. The collapse of the bridge was only the opening act. As the deck lost its supports, the roadway buckled, catapulting the lead ammunition truck directly into the blast core. Its cargo, with the explosive equivalent of 100 pounds of TNT, ignited a chain reaction. The detonation tore through the adjacent ordnance haulers. In an instant, over 1 million pounds of enemy munitions were turned into a Ukrainian weapon. The scene at the river was one of total annihilation. Where the bridge once stood, there was now a chasm of fire and twisted steel, cutting off the convoy from its objective. The strategic fallout was even more devastating. The command structure of Russia's southern front was instantly shattered. 10,000 troops were stranded, their supply lines severed, with less than 72 hours of ammunition and fuel remaining. In under 5 minutes, Moscow's most significant bargaining chip for peace talks in Washington had been removed from the board. The operation concluded in the red light of dawn. Smoke from the ruined crossing ascended in the distance, its reflection on the Dnieper River a stark wound on the landscape. The Russian convoy was effectively erased from the map, and with it, Moscow's final hope for resupplying its southern flank. Lieutenant Dmitry Volkov and his team began their exfiltration along the pre-planned route. They moved through scorched fields and cratered trails. The journey back was silent, each man carrying the complex weight of professional pride and the gravity of their actions. It was a sentiment understood only by those who execute impossible missions and survive. Upon reaching the village of Zatun, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Church bells began to ring as doors flew open, and villagers poured into the streets. Women came forward bearing bread and salt, the timeless welcome for warriors returning from the fight. Children ran beside the tactical vehicles, waving small blue and yellow flags, their cheers heralding a new morning. An elder's voice was heard. "Because of you, we are still alive." Fellow Ukrainian soldiers formed up, their expressions a quiet mixture of respect and profound emotion. There were no parades, no speeches, only the shared, unspoken belief that this single action had preserved their land, their homes, and their future. Dmitry surveyed the scene, watching Ukrainian flags snap in the wind and the morning light reflect in the eyes of the people. He raised his hand in a sharp military salute. He then spoke quietly, "Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes! ****. In a separate theater of operations, Ukrainian forces initiated a daring plan to strike a target within North Korea. At 0400 hours on August 28, 2025, the pre-dawn calm over Kachan, North Korea, was violently broken. A swarm of 100 unmanned aerial vehicles, each assembled from smuggled components for less than $300, converged on their target. Their mission: the neutralization of one of North Korea's most secure military installations, a facility housing 60 ballistic missiles, 90,000 gallons of aviation fuel, 12,000 artillery shells, and materiel for 10,000 troops. The question was whether these improvised machines, built from plywood, fiberglass, and salvaged electronics, could breach the hardened defenses of Pyongyang's military. The answer would soon be evident. The first fireballs bloomed on the horizon. This raised critical questions. How did Ukrainian assets infiltrate these weapons? Could the operation succeed, and what would be North Korea's response? The following is a reconstruction of the events. Asterisk. On August 12, 2025, at 0200 hours, in the industrial outskirts of Dandong, a Chinese border city less than 20 meters from North Korea, one of Ukraine's most audacious covert operations was set into motion. For nearly 1 month, Ukrainian intelligence officers had meticulously planned every detail of the high-risk mission, their target: to strike the heart of a fortified North Korean base using a swarm of 100 unmanned aerial vehicles, a small but lethal arsenal, but one possessing the kinetic force of a missile strike. The logistical undertaking was immense, involving more than 12 tons of UAV components, including engines, airframes, guidance packages, and explosive payloads, all requiring infiltration through multiple checkpoints. The strategy was to avoid smuggling complete weapon systems. Instead, the Ukrainians broke down the parts into 420 separate shipments, each deceptively manifested as farm equipment or construction supplies. Moving crate by crate, the consignments traversed the border directly past inspectors who were completely unaware they were clearing a disassembled drone squadron for passage. By the 27th of August, all shipments had converged upon a derelict warehouse shrouded within a pine forest just 11 miles from the North Korean border. There, a dedicated team of 47 Ukrainian engineers and technicians labored in continuous shifts. In a mere 15 days, they had assembled 100 fully mission-capable UAVs, each armed with a 20-kilogram high-explosive payload. In total, the fleet constituted a strike package costing less than $3 million. Yet it was capable of inflicting hundreds of millions in strategic damage. However, the operation nearly unraveled on the seventh night of assembly, August 20th, 2025, at exactly 11:37 p.m. Two North Korean border guards patrolled near the operational site. A subtle exhaust plume from an engine test drifted into the night air. The guards stopped, their flashlights lancing across the warehouse facade. Inside, the Ukrainian team froze. Discovery would mean their immediate elimination, the loss of all 47 operatives, and the absolute failure of the mission. In a fraction of a second, the lead engineer threw the main power breaker, plunging the entire building into sudden, deep silence. After 90, then 10 agonizing seconds, the guards exchanged words, shrugged, and continued their patrol. The crisis was averted. On August 28, 2025, at 4 a.m., the lights in the Pine Forest warehouse went dark a final time. The doors opened, and methodically, Ukraine's first wave of drones slipped into the pre-dawn darkness. Their objective was not destruction, but to blind the enemy. 10 specially configured drones, each equipped with a compact electromagnetic jamming pod developed by Ukraine's top defense engineers, ascended into the sky, flying at 200 feet and closely following the terrain. They penetrated North Korean airspace at precisely 4 a.m. Their flight paths were exact, programmed to orbit perimeter radars to generate maximum electronic interference. At 4 a.m., the pods activated. A silent storm of electromagnetic energy erupted, overwhelming early warning radars near Sinuiju and Kaichon. Within 15 minutes, one of East Asia's most robust defensive networks was effectively neutralized. Panic ensued among North Korean operators. Main surveillance radar displays showed nothing but signal noise. Tracking systems produced a stream of false contacts. Searchlights swept the skies at random, but there was nothing to acquire. At 4 a.m., the remainder of the drone force came online. Engines roared to life, wings deployed, and dozens of shadowy forms lifted above the tree line. They held formation, waiting for the electronic warfare assets to complete their mission. Only when the enemy was rendered completely blind would the kinetic assault begin. The window of opportunity was shrinking. Ukraine had less than 900 seconds to unleash its full force. The electronic battlespace was now shaped and controlled. The phase of physical destruction was set to begin. What would unfold was a precision, high-velocity assault against a disoriented and defenseless adversary. August 28, 2025, 4 a.m. The second wave surged. 40 Ukrainian loitering munitions ascended into the night sky, their engines emitting the menacing hum of a mechanical swarm. Each carried a 20-kilogram warhead engineered to defeat hardened bunkers and radar installations. Unlike the jammers, these were kinetic assets, programmed with lethal precision. The priority targets were North Korea's air defenses, the KN-06 Red Banner surface-to-air batteries, mobile radar platforms, and fixed anti-aircraft gun positions arrayed across a 12-mile deep defense zone. Ukrainian military intelligence had mapped every launcher's coordinates with extreme accuracy. At 4 a.m., the swarm made contact. 6 UAVs impacted a radar dome to the west of Sinuiju, annihilating it in a blinding detonation. Seconds later, an additional 8 units struck their designated missile launchers, detonating with enough force to hurl the steel tubes like toys. Concussive waves ripped through the base, shredding barracks and igniting fuel depots. North Korean gunners scrambled to mount a defense. Anti-aircraft fire tore through the darkness, but the response was futile. Over 12 scattered rounds in the first 2 minutes. But return fire was erratic. Electronic jammers saturated the airwaves as the drones executed impossible, physics-defying maneuvers, confounding enemy targeting solutions. Operators engaged ghost signatures, their munitions tearing through empty airspace as the true threats descended with the finality of an executioner's blade. By 400 hours, 26 air defense emplacements had been neutralized. The Earth heaved from detonations equivalent to 5 tons of TNT. Surveillance feeds captured the catastrophic failure of missile silos, their warheads cooking off in a devastating sequential eruption of fire. A direct hit on the ammunition depot risked a secondary blast on the scale of 40,000 shells igniting simultaneously, an event capable of leveling all structures within a half-mile radius. The scale of the destruction was breathtaking. In under 10 minutes, North Korea's forward air defense grid, an investment valued at over $750 million, had been rendered into a landscape of twisted metal and smoldering craters. Deep within a concealed command bunker, Ukrainian strategists exchanged grim, knowing glances. A feat once deemed impossible was now a tactical reality. The adversary's defensive shield, long considered invulnerable, was shattered. Yet, there was no moment for triumph. The window of opportunity was closing as enemy systems began to reboot. Ukraine had a mere 7 minutes to unleash the next phase, a strike designed to eviscerate North Korea's war-making capability. The stage was now set for the decisive blow. On August 28, 2025, at 0400 hours, the North Korean air defense network was fundamentally broken. The third wave of Ukrainian attack drones commenced its ingress. 30 unmanned aerial vehicles were tasked with a single critical objective: to sever the logistical arteries of the enemy's military. Their designated targets were not personnel or sensor arrays, but the critical supply warehouses and fuel bunkers concealed deep within the Kaichang military complex. At 0400 hours, the first drone breached the roof of a primary fuel depot. The impact ignited a firestorm equivalent to 90,000 gallons of jet fuel, illuminating the horizon with an artificial dawn. Concussive blasts were felt in townships 10 kilometers distant as adjacent military structures buckled and collapsed. Moments later, 7 more drones impacted the main missile hangar. The structure housed an estimated 60 short-range ballistic missiles poised for deployment. The detonation initiated a catastrophic sympathetic reaction, causing missiles to launch erratically, careening into the sky before violently disintegrating in mid-flight. Field observers registered 23 distinct secondary explosions in the span of 2 minutes, each one rocking the terrain like a seismic event. At 0400 hours, the swarm converged on the ammunition depot. The outcome was apocalyptic. More than 12,000 artillery rounds cooked off in a single massive detonation, releasing energy equivalent to 15 tons of TNT. The ground itself convulsed, and an entire sector of the base was consumed by a towering pillar of fire and smoke. The remaining drones were directed at the Russian supply warehouse, a deliberate and calculated psychological strike. The detonations tore through walls, exposing pallets stacked high with grain, rice, and rations provisions sufficient to sustain 10,000 soldiers for 3 months. The entire stock was incinerated, leaving behind only ash and the certainty of hunger. A state of chaos engulfed North Korean command and control. Communication channels were saturated with contradictory reports. Fuel reserves destroyed, missile assets lost, casualty figures unconfirmed. Commanders desperately requested air defense support, but the batteries were silent. In the spreading conflagration, unit cohesion dissolved as soldiers began to break ranks. Many abandoned their positions entirely. By 0400 hours, less than 15 minutes from the start of the assault, the Kachan facility was a ruin. A complex that once secured billions in strategic assets was now a smoldering wreck of mangled steel and scorched earth. Ukraine had not merely breached a defensive line, it had crippled North Korea's fundamental ability to sustain combat operations. August 28, 2025, 0400 hours. The final wave was deployed. 20 attack UAVs remained. Their mission was brutally direct, to sanitize the battlefield. These drones were a different breed, highly agile, powered by microturbines that allowed them to hover and strike with the predatory speed of Raptors. Their operational directive was unambiguous: eliminate survivors. At 0501 hours, the drones descended upon the outskirts of Cayenne. Air defense teams attempting to relocate to fallback positions were engaged and neutralized before they could return fire. Reinforcement convoys were halted as UAVs targeted their engine blocks. Ground infantry attempting to rally were systematically broken apart as the swarm prosecuted its targets without pause. Soldiers fleeing through the smoke and debris were tracked and eliminated by detonations that seemed to materialize from thin air. By 0507 hours, an unnatural quiet settled over the area, punctuated only by the roar of raging fires. The last secure position had been completely overrun. Subsequent intelligence assessments estimated that over $1.2 billion in strategic assets, including fuel and missile inventories, were annihilated in less than 40 minutes. The human cost was reported to be staggering. Over 14 soldiers were neutralized in the ensuing chaos, and an entire battalion was rendered combat ineffective. At 0509 hours, the final UAV detonated against a relay station, severing the installation's command link to Pyongyang. Simultaneously, the Ukrainian control element initiated exfiltration protocols. Systems were scrubbed, antennas dismantled, and the team prepared for extraction. Within moments, the operators dissolved into the tree line, bearing only mission-critical laptops and encrypted hardware. Before sunrise, they had ghosted across the border, leaving only the smoldering ruins of a strategic asset in their wake. Pyongyang's response was swift and furious. By 0500 hours, fighter jets scrambled, their pilots hunting for a phantom enemy that had already vanished. The adversary had been struck a devastating and humiliating blow delivered from an untraceable vector. This was more than an attack. It was a definitive statement, proving that even the most fortified and isolated regimes remain vulnerable to asymmetric tactics and bold execution. For Pyongyang, the strategic shock was profound. A bastion once deemed invulnerable was neutralized overnight, its defenses silenced, its garrison rendered impotent. This engagement was not merely a tactical strike. It was a strategic message, a demonstration of reach, and the opening move in a new form of shadow conflict where the smallest assets can yield the most lethal outcomes. The operational calculus for modern warfare has been irrevocably altered by this single action. The global defense community now watches, waiting for the next move on this rapidly evolving battlefield.